Growing up in the 90s, I remember a really common refrain in TV and movies when women were talking about a man that they liked. They'd often say things like, "He's so sensitive," like it was the dreamiest thing a guy could be. Another one was, "He's so in touch with his emotions." And for boys like me, that felt like a way in. An easy way to be good in all the right ways. An easy framework to avoid becoming the rough and emotionally unavailable man that everyone was warning me about, that people seemed to be complaining about. But as I've come into a deeper knowing of who I am, I recognized that that sensitivity was just a performance. It made me look like a good guy. It made women like me. But it also disconnected me from myself. And that's the trap. Whenever we're performing for others, the effect is that we go numb. And this isn't the only route to numbness. In fact, I think numbness is actually everywhere these days. It has become endemic. Most of us walk through life unaware and unfeeling and asleep. And because it's become so common to live like this, because it's become normal, we've forgotten what it looks like to be awake, to not operate on instinct and reactions and blowing up at every little trigger. This is what numbness looks like. And it robs us of what matters most. Because it blocks love, it blocks presence, it dilutes our attention. And all of this adds up to relationships that will never be enough, will never support us, will never feel sweet or rich or connecting in the ways that we're looking for, in the ways that we really want. And so this episode, I want to talk about sensitivity and how to find your power inside of that, how to find your agency inside of sensitivity. Because it's not about weakness, and it's not just about being in touch with your emotions either. Sensitivity is awareness. It's the ability to notice what is happening around and inside of you. And it's also the ability to be moved by life. Because we don't dream about sleepwalking through life. We don't dream about living a numbed out life or an easy life. We dream of fulfillment. We dream of making an impact, of falling and feeling deeply in love. And without our sensitivity alive and online, we miss that. So in this episode, how to wake up and reclaim the gifts of your senses in a world that is trying to lull you back to sleep. Stay with me. This is Reclaiming the Gentle Man. I'm Dave Lashansky. So this last weekend, Vine and I took a trip to visit some friends up in Washington. And it ended up being just a beautiful trip. It was such a sweet time with our friends, and it was just really good to get out, be together, to travel. But it didn't start out wonderfully. In fact, it actually started out pretty badly. So here's what happened. Our sweet little dog, Neela, comes with us on trips. She was a rescue from a Korean meat farm and is so shy around other people, so shy that she has failed every single daycare and pet sitting test that we've ever put her through because no one can get close enough to her to leash her. And so while we haven't given up training her to be capable of being looked after, for the time being, she comes with us. And she's great. She's a really good dog, very easy, really calm most of the time as long as we're there. But still, it is logistically a thing to travel with her. And honestly, traveling with Neela is usually pretty stressful for me. And so the morning of our trip, I'm walking her, and lo and behold, and this is probably too much information, but it's relevant to the episode, I promise. So I'm going to stay here, and apologies ahead of time. Neela gets diarrhea, and I spin out. We are 4 hours from takeoff, and I'm thinking, oh my God, we can't do this trip. She's not going to be okay. Just spinning out. I am succumbing to this situation, and I have no idea what to do, and I'm crumbling. And I will say that Neela often has this effect on me, and in my defense, she is ridiculously cute and just a good, sweet dog. But eventually, I start to realize that I'm not okay. And I talk to Vanna, and I listen to recordings from my teachers, and I start to really check in with myself in the way that I've taught myself to. And when I do this, I am reminded of this lesson that has been percolating for me really recently, and it's about sensitivity and softness. And the essence of the lesson is this. I spent so much of my life trying to be a sensitive guy, a nice guy, and a good guy. And the result was that all of my sensitive energy got projected out onto the world around me. To partners, to friends, to those with fewer rights, to those who'd been abused, and to my poor sweet dog. And my attention was trained so fully on others that I ignored what was happening inside of me every time I did that. And projecting all of that sensitivity onto the world around me, overly empathizing with everything around me, trying to be the most caring partner and friend and worker, left me numb to important parts of my inner world. And this is the sad irony that I'm seeing unfold all around me in our society these days. And it's why I'm actually making this episode. Because I think a lot of us are going to recognize this pattern unfolding in our own lives too. When the problems of someone else, a family member, or a group of people you care about or advocate for, when their problems get you so activated that you can't stop thinking about it, that you can't seem to move the anger or the grief or the distress because thinking about their situation is so intense for you. That's what I'm talking about. Does it sound familiar? Do you see where I'm going with this? Because it might not be where you think. Because the point here is that projecting emotions, the things we won't feel for ourselves, onto others, yields a really unpleasant form of numbness, where instead of feeling nothing, we are only feeling the distress. The distress is the constant, and we can't seem to access the power that lives inside of us to do something, to change it. Often, we convince ourselves that we're feeling something through, right? I was doing this all the time, especially when I first started to recognize that I wasn't super in touch with my emotions in the way that I thought I was. I would convince myself that I was just feeling this through. I was just allowing my emotions to come through me. But what was actually happening was I just turned my emotions into a spin cycle of emotion. And I became totally unaware of the guidance inside of the emotion, the guidance waiting for me inside. Because there are clear instructions being broadcast to us from around us and inside of us. And you can call it the voice of God, you can call it spirit, you can call it source, you can call it intuition. But there are always signs through whatever we're going through. And most of us miss those signs because we are so stuck and unable to feel anything other than the distress. This is what was happening to me with my dog before our flight. And yes, I have experienced this in more serious and painful ways too, where the emotion overpowers everything else. And I feel totally powerless before it. And I'm imagining you've experienced something like this too. But why am I talking about all this in an episode about reclaiming sensitivity? Well, one of the most important features of a life of alignment is having the sensitivity to be able to make out those messages, to see and hear and experience that guidance from the world around us and inside of us. And part of this is recognizing when we're being sensitive without feeling. In other words, when we're only paying attention to the loudest thing in our awareness, instead of directing our awareness with intention. And it's not to end the emotion, but it's to see what else is there, what information is available to us, what is coming up inside of that so that we can learn and grow and transcend this moment, this current state that we're in. This is the process of evolution that I'm always talking about in this podcast. Because if we continue to dig and excavate, if we continue to keep our eyes and our senses alert to what's happening inside of us, we will come into an understanding of what it is that is actually trying to come forward. A teaching of where the exit for this experience of distress really is. Not toward numbness, not toward bypassing, but toward where we want to go, toward the direction we are growing into. When we direct our awareness in this way, when we notice that we're looping and start looking for the signals that are available to us to help us step off the loop, to step toward ourselves and what we want, this is us staying sensitive through the storm. This is us staying sensitive when it hurts, when we want to shut off the discomfort, when we want to shut off our feeling, when we want it to go away. This is where growth lives. This is where change lives. In that moment of staying alive, staying alert, staying awake, even through discomfort. And it's hard. This is not something we become experts at quickly. This is work that clearly I still do myself. And it's hard because it usually requires us to own something we don't want to be accountable for. Or it requires us to acknowledge, to accept the fact that we might just be powerless to change a certain situation. That we'll have to deal with a set of circumstances that we don't want to. Because the only alternative is just wallowing about how unfair it is. And this is what was happening to me with my sick dog and my travel plans. And when I brought my awareness back online, when I paid attention to the signs inside of me and outside of me, to Vanna's take on the situation, to the synchronicity in my teacher's words, how they were ringing so true for this specific situation and how I just happened to be turning to them in that moment, when I paid attention to what I know to be true, I was able to accept my reality. And I regained the ability to move through the situation with presence, to trust that I could handle whatever would happen. That I could take care of my sick dog, even if I was away from home. That she was going to be okay. Because she was. And if she wasn't, I knew what to do. And while my sick dog is a relatively benign example, the reason I'm sharing this story is that what I thought was my sensitivity, right? Caring so much about this dog. Oh, she's sick, and really empathizing with her, feeling into that emotion. It quickly became an insensitivity to what mattered most, which was actually being an effective and loving and caring dog dad. One who could take action when needed. One who could care for her in a way that was actually useful and meaningful to her. And part of being sensitive means noticing when our habits disempower us, when our over-empathizing and projecting our fears and worries onto the world and the beings around us, when that disempowers us, when it blinds us from knowing what's needed of us, who we need to be. When we get so lost in a situation that we don't know how to show up anymore, and we don't know how to find our way back to the presence. Part of being sensitive is waking up to our automatic responses to things and choosing instead how we act. And reclaiming sensitivity, reclaiming the power, activating the power inside your sensitivity gives you the ability to stay open even when it's uncomfortable, which leads to a way more vibrant life. It gives you access to completely expanded, exponentially expanded experiences of joy and, yes, of grief. It is looking powerful emotions in the face and accepting them and surrendering to them, while also surrendering to the moment, surrendering to your vision of where you want to go, which means keeping your senses online and activated through the pain, through the storm, so you can stay alert and listening, so you can learn about yourself and what is being activated and why this is being activated right now. This is the power of your sensitivity. It's not just empathy. It's not just being in touch with your emotions. It is activating your senses. And being able to do that is the secret. It is the way to growth, to the life that you want. And I only know this because in that moment I listened. And I woke up from that spiral, that old habit of freaking out when my dog is sick. And staying awake to the sweetness and the possibility and the riches lying on the path before me. My desire to go on this trip. My desire to care for my dog. My desire to love my life is the only reason I could feel this. And it's the only reason I could see my way out. Because I genuinely didn't know what would happen. We never do. But I knew that if I accepted what could happen and trusted myself to attend to whatever may come, I knew I'd be okay. So this is where to start. This is where the activation begins. The activation of the power in your sensitivity begins by speaking the words to yourself. I will be okay. Into your being. No matter what, I will be okay. Speak those words into your being. Speak them so fiercely that they begin to emanate from inside of you. That they come from before your words and before your thought. And when you've done that, start to pay attention to how quickly the answers and the signs from the universe reveal themselves. This is the stuff that your dreams are built on. It's the way to realize them without depleting yourself or giving more than you have. It is the sustainable route of growth and evolution. And it's the way to call in the love that you're longing for, because you'll be fully and totally open to it when it finally reaches you. And you might discover that it's already in your life, accessible to you. You've just been missing the signs. This is reclaiming your sensitivity. And it might lead you, gently and powerfully, to the realization of your highest dreams and your most beautiful love. And you can begin by just speaking the words, I will be okay no matter what. By letting those words take seed, take root inside of you. By nurturing that seed day in and day out through your actions, through your intention, and through your sensitivity, through your noticing and directing your awareness where you want it to go. I wish you great success in this. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Reclaiming the Gentle Man. We are at episode 22, and I can't tell you how much it means to me to have had some of you along the ride this whole time, listening to every episode, sharing with me the things that have struck you and and helped you live the life of your dreams. That's why I do this. That's the thing I care most about. So to those who have reached out, thank you. And I will say, this upcoming Saturday is my birthday. And because it's my first birthday with my podcast that has been years in the making, my birthday wish this year is simple. Help me get the word out. Share this podcast with a friend. Post it to your social media. The things I'm hearing from people about the impact these episodes are having on your lives, they mean the world to me. And what I want more than anything is for more people to hear it, for more people to embark on this journey, for us to grow this collective of people who are committed to loving more courageously. That is at the center of all of my work. And if you want to stay a part of it, sign up for the free upcoming workshop at my website, daveleshansky.com. Beyond sharing this episode with a friend, attending the events that I'm putting on is one of the best ways you can support me. And this workshop is going to be free. And it's going to be so much fun. We're going to ask the questions that most of us have never asked about our relationships, but that are quietly lying in wait in a lot of our struggles. Like, what do we really owe each other in love? I hope to see you there. Again, you can check it out at daveleshansky.com. As always, this show is produced by me through my podcast production company, David Benjamin Sound. If you're interested in learning more about podcasting, get in touch. davidbenjaminsound.com. We'd love to host one of our free workshops for you or your company on the power of podcasting for your brand. That's all for today. I will talk to you soon. I'll be back in a week.